Welcome to the New York Times. On today's episode, Super Bowl Sunday, Robert Kraft made an anti-Semitism commercial that united Jews so close. I have not seen Jews united this hard since after October 7th, speaking up in one unified voice to say, we hate this anti-Semitism commercial. Stop this anti-Semitism commercial. Also, AIPAC has screwed over a pro-Israel candidate in New Jersey. We're going to get into that story. Another edition of Mamdani Watch. Zohar Mamdani, can he clean up the snow? Can he hire a correct person to run the Combat Anti-Semitism Commission? Both stories have Jews in New York livid. Also, Israel has its first ever bobsled team in the Olympics. And of course, we got to talk about new polling. Are we witnessing the death of the word Zionist? Jews don't like it. Pro-Israel Jews, they also don't like it. All those stories and more on today's episode of the New York Times. As always, I am Walter Cronkite. Eitan Levine. Yeah, I said it.
Don't use my Christian name.
Richard Cronkite. Yeah, it's Walter Cronkite. That's how I say it on the internet. It's actually funny because then when I do my videos, I'll say like, oh, this is Walter Cronkite. And then Instagram will be like, oh, you mean Walter Cronkite? And I'm like, no.
Oh, wow.
No Instagram. You type it out full force, 10 toes deep.
Do they?
They cry. They go, the ADL is actually going to...
How many interns are you responsible for the firings of?
Oh, tons. Do you know I actually had an intern taken away from me at the Orthodox Union? Did I ever tell you this story?
No.
He used to be the online marketing coordinator at the Orthodox Jewish Union. The most Jewish fact you'll hear about Eitan Levine. By the way, always, I am joined off camera by Richard Hunter Cunningham Templeton, the Thoid, who has to stay off camera so that he can continue to get employed in. A lot of his employers are Jewish people.
That's right.
That's right. Rich works part-time on Little St. James, and which, by the way, I know people out there, they want my Jewish Epstein wrap-up or whatever. I am bringing on an Epstein specialist to have a conversation about all the Jewish tie-ins there. Some of the funniest things is that so many of these emails are just Jeffrey being like, what time Shabbos over? Swear to God. Because a lot of his a lot of his contacts and, whatever, they all, a lot of them are Shomer Shabbos Jews. That's what it is. Anyways, Rich, what were you saying before?
Oh, you were talking about you got an intern.
Yes.
Taken away from you from the OU.
The OU, the Orthodox Union. And I got an intern, and this was around the time that Cronut started. Remember Cronut?
Yeah.
Cronut came to New York. Everyone lost their mind.
Yeah.
They're just like, is it donut? Is it France? What is this thing? And there was that line around Dominic Ansel Bakery for a while where you had to wait on for a while to get those donuts. I sent an intern to go wait on the line for me.
Oh my God.
And not only did I get the intern taken away from me, but a rabbi was like, it's not even kosher. So it was an abuse of power, and I abused power with something that wasn't kosher,
so
which you can't do.
It was a double offense.
They really didn't like that. I lasted 6 months at that job, and then I was out of there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I also, I lied to them and told them that I had another job waiting for me on the other side. Did not. I was just like, I would rather not make money than work here anymore.
That is so prideful. That's
oh my
great.
God.
Oh my God.
It's an Orthodox Union. It's a bunch of Jewish men. One could say Jewish men.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory out there. The Orthodox Union run by Jews.
Interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Orthodox Union, I didn't tell anyone I was a comic there.
Oh.
Because I was like, this is the worst environment to have people find out you're a comic. Because then you have, every single over 50s Jewish person out there thinks that they're Henny.
The Borscht Belt.
And then the thing is that it then came out that I do comedy, and then 5 or 6 times a day you'd have some old Jewish guy just being like, son, I got a good one for you.
Now, was that object where that was a cubicle?
This is actually, yes, this is I say $10,000 in improv classes to learn this over the years. But they would come and they would say jokes. I do remember one of the jokes. This is a joke. It was, Eitan, I got one Eitan for you. Eitan, you can use this. When you get married, a lot of people think that has 2 rings. It's actually 3 rings, okay? You get the engagement ring, and then you get the wedding ring, and then you get the suffering. You get the wedding ring, you get the engagement ring, and then you get the sufferings. And just a tear rolls down my eye.
That's honestly, you should bring that back.
I really should. I really, really should. It's the perfect joke, to be completely honest. It's a 3-act play.
Well, it's
No word economy, you know.
I don't know if you'd actually show this, but the
Yeah,
joke I sent you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, the one that you
The
sent me?
girl, he's Jewish.
Oh my God. No. Rich, actually, I do think that you should say it. Rich told me this joke the other day. I laughed so hard at this. It is such a funny Jewish joke. Do you remember the wording of the joke?
I can even bring it up because it was in a book. But this is from
It killed me.
From a book about
Mein
the
Kampf.
mathematician John von Neumann, who worked on all of the math that went into the bomb, really. So let me just see.
Which bomb? Atomic bomb or Melania?
Oh my God! Oh well, we got to get into that.
You got the wedding ring and the engagement ring, and then you got the suffering.
Let me see.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. Dun. Let me just bring it up. It should be coming up.
This joke, he told me, it killed me.
Yeah, it's right here. So
into the mic.
Yeah. Let me see. So this is about John von Neumann. I'm just going to give a little bit of preface. There was one joke that he always told past the point when it was funny. All right. In a small village in Poland, a terrifying rumor was spreading. A Christian girl had been found murdered. Fearing swift retaliation, the Jewish community gathered in the shoal to plan whatever defensive actions were possible under the circumstances. Just as the emergency meeting was being called to order, in ran the president of the synagogue, out of breath and all excited. "Brothers," he cried out, "brothers, I have the most wonderful news. The murdered goyal is Jewish." Hey! God.
That is one of the funniest jokes. Guys, don't worry about it. The Cossacks, I have incredible news. I also have very bad news for the Rosenthal family. Guys, thank God it wasn't a guy who died. It was a nice Jewish girl who passed. Thank God. Absolute expert level Jewish humor. And with that, let's get into some of the news stories.
Yeah.
First off, the big story everyone's talking about, the Robert Kraft anti-Semitism commercial. $15 million spent on the commercial and then ad placement. I think they get I vaguely remember something about how they get potentially the ad placement on the Super Bowl for free because it's like part of, the NFL giving back or whatever, but but they did spend around $15 million on the thing totally. The video or the commercial, which I'm sure you've seen it at this point if you haven't, basically this nebbishy, tiny little twink Jew kid walks through public school and, he's kind of bullied and harassed during that point, this little Jewish twink, and he's very scrawny. And he gets to his locker and he opens up his locker and someone put a dirty Jew sticker on the backpack. And then this black guy who's bigger than him, cooler looking, seems like a nicer guy in general, a guy I'd want to hang out with.
Yeah.
Just like a really cool, not Jewish guy.
Yeah.
Really not Jewish.
Yeah. Opposite
of this Jewish dork. Slaps a blue square on it and just goes. And so, the implication is that, they got this Blue Square campaign that's supposed to stamp out anti-Semitism. I actually do not mind the Blue Square campaign most of the time. It's very nice to see the blue pin on, Mike Vrabel, who is the coach of the Patriots. I thought that's nice. Van Jones wears it. It's just nice. It's a nice little reminder. It's a pin like any other pin. They slap the blue square down on it, and then he goes like, "Don't worry about them." And then they start walking away. And as they're walking away, the Jewish boy literally says to this black kid, "Sorry, dog, I be tripping." He says it at the end of it. He goes, "I'm tripping." Maybe not sorry, dog, but he goes, "Sorry, I was tripping." And then the black guy goes like, "What's your name?" He goes, "David." And then the Jewish guy goes, "What's your name?" And he was like, he said, I don't remember. I couldn't hear it at the end or whatever, but it was something like Latrell or something. Like he gave like a stereotypical name. Anyway, so couple things from this that obviously, one, I've not seen the Jewish community come together to hate something this much since Hamas stormed the gates of the southern part of Israel. Everyone hated this for a bunch of reasons. One, the scrawny Jewish kid. Jesus Christ, could you have picked a more stereotypical little Twinkie, scrawny Jewish like jock bait thing to put out there. To have this happen in the same week that the Olympics are starting, Team Israel baseball was just announced, this concept that Jews are scrawny and weak, we need the Goyim to stand up for us, that really, really didn't sync well with everybody. In fact, you can honestly argue MAGA, not MAGA, Zionist, anti-Zionist, Republican, Democrat, whatever, everyone, all the Jews, we all take offense to that. Now, the fact that it came from Robert Kraft's, group is a little bit weird. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, and this is a very valid criticism that I just want to put out there. Robert Kraft comes from an older age. Dirty Jew is still obviously a term that's around the internet and stuff like that. But like the anti-Semitism he experienced is kind of dirty Jew.
Yeah.
If you're going to make a commercial now about anti-Semitism, then you have to include like Nick Fuentes and pro-Palestinian movement. Not anti-Israel stuff is what I would say. There would need to be a dirty Zio-Nazi sticker. It would need to say Goy Slop. It would need to actually represent the current anti-Semitic universe that is out there. So it felt like it was addressing an old kind of anti-Semitism by relying on this trope that Jews are scrawny little twinks who can't defend ourselves, and we need, big, strong non-Jews to kind of defend ourselves. So the bullying wasn't accurate. The the stereotypes, weren't accurate on that. And the last thing that really, really pissed me off, $15 million for that? $15 million. That money could be repurposed every time I have a conversation with any single Jewish institution. They're all scratching for money. They're all clawing for money. There was a school that shut down in Boston, a Jewish school shut down in Boston, perfectly fine school because of lack of funding. New England Patriots, Boston. That's his community. He should be up there propping up, Jewish life. That money should be repurposed to Jewish day schools and Jewish day camps and the Jewish universe. The cost of being a Jew in general, it's expensive. Kosher food's expensive. Holiday seats are expensive. Passover's expensive. All these things are expensive in a way where if you really want to help the Jewish community and actually defend the Jewish community, step one is to strengthen the Jewish community itself. Step two is to then address all the hate. But you got to make sure that the bones of the Jewish community are handled before you go out there and you create a commercial like this. Not saying that anti-Semitism is a problem. Also, not saying that Robert Kraft isn't great. I love Robert Kraft. I say that as a Jet fan. His team has massacred my team every single year for years. But he's one of the few Jews that goes out there and puts his money where his mouth is. He handles a lot of anti-Semitism stuff. This was just such an epic, epic, epic swing and a miss. And I think that the entire Jewish community kind of got behind it. Even the people that were supporting it were like, listen, it's not the best commercial, but at least you're doing something. What I do hope is that there is a reframing of how these dollars are spent. There was a weird moment during after October 7th where there was a lot of gala dinners and stuff. And there was a lot of gala events. And I remember that there was one event where there's a bunch of girls in cocktail dresses and they were cheersing. And then behind them on the wall, it just said B-Boss. And I always, which was a reference to the B-Boss children who had died. And I always wondered, where's that money going? Where is that when we're giving money to these galas and when we're doing this stuff? What is the actual use case? Is it being effective? The Kraft thing, to me, is another version of that, where it's almost like he wanted to say, look, I made a commercial. Here's a commercial. I did it. I wish I had my ADL fidget spinner with me, to be honest. But anyways, that was kind of my thought on it. I think that it's going to reframe. Hopefully the lesson to take away from this, because not to be all negative about this, because I really think that this was just a good guy who did a thing weird. We need to start to repurpose that money and just to make Jewish life a little bit more accessible. That money, strengthen our walls and then deal with the hate on the outside. As a non-Jew, what did you think of it? Do you mind if I ask?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a bit trite.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. It just felt so just dated in the medium with which they were doling out that anti-Semitism, having a Post-it note with very cleanly written those words.
Great handwriting.
Yeah. I mean,
show me a neo-Nazi who writes like that. You can't be a neo-Nazi and have perfect calligraphy.
Yeah. I mean, so, I mean, you can appreciate the intent there, everything like that. But, I mean, the part that was most glaring for me was what happened immediately after the ad, which was
Singing toilet.
A singing
It
toilet.
went right into a singing.
So I'm at a Super Bowl party. Eitan had already sent me the thing like the previous day, and so I already knew because when I'm sure you guys do this. You're watching commercials during the Super Bowl and everyone's guessing what ad is this for, and 95% of the time if you guess crypto or like some mortgage company you'd be right. And in this case people were still guessing crypto, like, you know, before like you see everything later. And I was like, no, guys, I was like, guys, I know what this commercial is about. And then they're like, whoa. So people were still processing like, oh, that was just
Wait,
kind
people
of weird.
thought it was going to be a crypto commercial?
Yes. People thought it was going to be another Kalshi ad.
That's so funny. Yeah. Wait, the kid's walking down a hallway and someone's like, odds are that this Jew is going to get the shit kicked out of him. You can bet on Kalshi how much this kid's going to get. Is the kid going to get an intifada chant at him?
Yes.
Or is he going to get Jews are money-sucking, media mongers? Which one? Kalshi ads out there. X.
It was like, yeah, is Sam Bankman-Fried behind this commercial?
Wait, that's so funny. The kid looks like Sam Bankman-Fried.
I know. Well, it was like, is this a biopic? Is this Sam Bankman-Fried's biopic?
Yeah, this is the way that the commercial should have gone, okay? This kid gets bullied. He sees Dirty Jew on his bag, turns around, and buys crypto.
Right.
Then what he's doing, he's leveraged himself. He puts that money into real estate, specifically that real estate that those kids live in. He's evicted them. If I was handling the anti-Semitism commercial, that's how I would have done it. I'd say, this kid gets bullied. Well, guess what? He owns your house now. Go find somewhere else. And you know what? I'm getting all the other little Jews in town to get together. We're buying up all the real estate, okay?
That's right.
We're occupying it. We're occupying Linden, New Jersey, okay? We're taking it over. We're pushing these Goyim to the seas, to the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, God.
Okay?
Oh, God.
From the rivers to the CVS.
No.
You want to do this? Here's what happened. You ready for this? Next video. Kid's walking through the hall. Kid throws a spitball at him, goes, Dirty Jew, turns around. 5 years later, this kid's a doctor operating on that kid's mom. He looks at him and he goes, oh, I'm sorry. Did the Dirty Jew have to clear up this body? All of a sudden, she flatlines. We're taking it out. Okay, we're occupying.
Wow.
It should just be the kid gets bullied, walking down. Who does that kid turn into?
Oh, Jeffrey Epstein. Nice.
Anyways, it was,
Yeah.
Wait, so that's so funny. I didn't even realize that that people could be looking at this thing and thinking like, oh, is it going to be a Chevy commercial?
And then
What's in your wallet?
Well, then I was like, guys, I know what this commercial is about. And they're like, yeah, no, it's probably going to be Cal or with this or that. And then the Post-it came out and then it just went silent.
Yeah.
And then people by the end were just like, oh, man. And then
did they feel bad? Like, what was the vibe? Was it like weird or did they feel like, good point, Robert Kraft?
I mean, it was more the contrast of mood was so stark that it was like, because the commercial itself was I think the one you sent me was 30 seconds to a minute, but that one might have been 15
They
seconds
actually,
or something.
on air, they cut there's like a minute long one.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there's like a 30-second long one. The one they aired was the minute long one, but at the end of it, the end of it, he doesn't go like, sorry, I was tripping, dog.
Yeah.
You know?
They cut
that specific part out.
But either way, it was kind of like this going from, you're watching Super Bowl commercials. It was goofy, everything like that. And then it like took a pretty like intense turn. Then you go directly into the singing toilet. So it was just the funniest.
How did no one check that? That's the funniest thing. You know for a fact that some intern flagged it on an email. It got ignored. And then it happened and someone got fired for it. Some ad placement person got fired for that for sure. I've seen how those conversations happen.
That was,
so funny.
That was amazing. And the laughter was so high, was so much that it was just like this mix of like, how does this even happen? Yeah.
It was such a dumb cell phone. It was actually, I would say with the exception of the kid, did you watch the Kid Rock thing that happened? Turning Point ran a Super Bowl halftime show, counter it, and Kid Rock's like his mic was, he was clearly lip syncing, but he didn't know what song he was lip syncing to, so he was kind of just like very off sync.
Yeah.
Anyways, congratulations to Sam Darnold. As a Jet fan, big fan of that. Robert Kraft, sorry that the Patriots lost. You know, once again, I support Robert Kraft in all, his endeavors, except for the Patriots. If the Patriots won, there's a good chance I would have stopped watching football for the next 15 years. I don't need to see that. I don't need to see Drake May's career.
Yeah.
Imagine if he got a Super Bowl his first round 2 years in with a new coach like that, where it's going to be him and Vrabel together for the rest of his career, like Brady and Belichick.
No.
I don't need to do that.
No.
I will also say, this is the current state of being a Jet fan. The two best things to happen in the Jets over the past 15 years have been, one, Sam Darnold winning the Super Bowl for the Seattle Seahawks.
Mhm.
Two, Belichick slowly disintegrating is what I would, is his social life slowly disintegrating. But even then, it's like, what? He's hooking up with like a hot 28-year-old? That's the own that I have. Being a Jet fan is prison. The best thing to happen to the Jets is that Woody Johnson's not on the Epstein files for now.
For now.
Yeah. The best thing about being a Jet fan is that Tish, the owner of the Giants, is on the thing.
That's right.
Oh my God. There was also, we're friends. We're all fans of Robert Kraft here. Did you see the Jordan t-shirt that she wore?
I did. Yeah.
Making a reference to the massage parlor that Kraft got caught up in.
Wow, man.
I gained a lot of respect for her at that point, to be completely honest. She went from being like a ditzy little like opportunist gold digger to like, oh, she's funny. Oh, that's funny. All right, next up, I want to talk about this AIPAC story. AIPAC fucked up a New Jersey congressional seat for a pro-Israel guy, and in the dumbest way possible. It's basically AIPAC, which is the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, for anyone who watches this and doesn't know, which would be shocking. Can you imagine someone at home's like, oh, AIPAC? Oh, cool, never heard of him. AIPAC spent $2 million through its political arm, the United Democracy Project, UDP, which is the company that they hire to make commercials and attack ads against other politicians who they're going against. So they spent $2 million through UDP to attack Tom Malinowski, who is running for Congress to fill Mickey Sherrill's seat in New Jersey. Now, here's some fun facts about Tom Malinowski. Very pro-Israel. Israel has a right to exist. It says Israel has a right to defend itself against Hezbollah and Hamas. Is super into U.S.-Israel security cooperation. He opposes BDS, boycott, divestment, sanction. He criticizes anti-BDS laws, but he's against BDS in general. The things that he is more centrist on is that he's against a settlement expansion in the West Bank. He wants U.S. military aid to have some sort of like stipulation when it's sent over to Israel. And then also he wants to acknowledge like human rights abuses that potentially happen for the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. What he basically represents is a large portion of the Jewish community. I mean, like, this is a very standard, moderate, pro-Israel perspective. He honestly aligns more with Israelis than AIPAC on this, to be completely honest. They spent $2 million to knock him out. Now, here's the funny thing about this. It's an open seat, right? There's 11 people that are running for this. He was the front runner. He's now 500 votes behind, I don't know if I'm going to get her name right, Anilila Mejia. Anilila Mejia is anti-Israel. She's a Bernie Sanders. She's more hardcore in the paint against Israel than Bernie Sanders. Is one of the only candidates who like uses the term genocide and stuff like that. She's now in the fucking lead. So AIPAC fucked Tom Malinowski over, and the result of this is that very likely they're going to get an anti-Israel congressperson to go into a very Jewish district, it turns out. All because that they didn't like that this guy was like a little bit more centrist, but still pro-Israel.
I see.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So they ran a bunch of stuff on him that was about immigration stuff. The charges that they ran against him were false. Malinowski is almost 500 points behind Mejia. Though the race is not over, the race is happening on Thursday. The unwanted consequence of doing this is that all 11 candidates in the race, Mejia is the least supportive of Israel. And by slamming Malinowski, AIPAC has possibly helped her win. AIPAC, one, what the fuck are you doing? Two, we got elections coming up and everything like that. There's a very good question now that people are starting to question like AIPAC more and more, I think, in the Jewish community. Just because everything's being questioned now. This is like such a wild cell phone that I don't see this potentially having consequences down the line about who they pick to attack and not attack. The bar, because Malinowski is pro-Israel, but he's not like AIPAC pro-Israel, which is a very different thing. AIPAC pro-Israel can't be the bar for what pro-Israel means or doesn't mean, because that doesn't really, reflect a significant portion of the Jewish community's feelings on Israel in general. But yeah, who are you voting for in the... Here we go. Another story I want to bring up. Similar to AIPAC, the term Zionist not polling well amongst Jews. According to JFNA, most U.S. Jews do not identify as Zionists, even when they support Israel. Only 1/3 of American Jews say they identify as Zionist, even as nearly 9 in 10 say they support Israel's right to exist. 9 in 10 support Israel. 1/3 claim that they are Zionist. This is, of course, according to a survey conducted by the JFNA, the Jewish Federations of North America. The findings of the survey reveal that American Jews do not have a mutually agreed upon definition of Zionism. Duh! Everyone's definition of Zionism is different. The term Zionism is very much taken the same way as Marty Supreme. Everyone has a different view on it. Everyone has a different deep view about how they feel about Timothy Chalamet and the Jews and ping pong in general.
That's right, yeah.
The findings of the study reveal that, there's no mutually agreed upon definition of Zionism. Those identifying as anti-Zionists and those identifying as Zionists ascribing sharply different meanings to the term. For example, 80% of anti-Zionist Jews say supporting whatever actions Israel takes is a tenet of Zionism, while only about 15% of self-identified Zionists share the belief, according to the study. The survey marks the most detailed assessment of the sentiments of American Jews on Zionism by a major Jewish organization. Findings are that 14% of Jews between 18 and 34 identify as anti-Zionist. The only demographic with a majority of self-identified Zionists was millennials, 35 to 44. The worst group. All the people that had their career going and then COVID happened and now they're flailing. Overall, more than 70% of Jewish adults who responded to JFNA's survey agreed, quote, I feel emotionally attached to Israel, and 60% said Israel made them proud to be Jewish. At the same time, nearly 70% agreed that they sometimes find it hard to support the actions taken by Israel or its government. 37% of Jews surveyed said that they identified as Zionists, while 7% labeled themselves an anti-Zionist. 8% said they were non-Zionists. 18% said they weren't sure. 30% said none of the labels ascribed to them. 88% of Jews surveyed believe that Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish democratic state. Why are we ever saying this word? I would never. The word is weird. First of all, the word is weird. Zionist?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a weird word. It feels like you're talking like it's communism, like you're in the Bolshevik era.
Yeah.
It feels like whenever someone's like saying Zionist or not, it feels like I'm having an argument with the czars over what to do with the Jewish problem after World War II.
Yeah. Also just hearing like Zion, the only time I remember growing up where I heard it was in the context of like a Bob Marley song.
I was about to say the only time that you should say Zion is if there's a nice little beat behind it.
That's right.
If there is, okay, if you want to use the term Zionist, you have to have a steel drum.
That's fair. Oh.
That's the only way. That's the only way I'll have it. We have to delete this word, like absolutely delete this word. And I think that there's a lot of hesitation to delete the word and to not use the word because people are like, whoa, are we just going to give up that? Are we just going to give up? The answer is yes. You lost the ability to use this word. At one point, there was ability to define the word with a very universally understood definition of what it means to be a Zionist. There was an opportunity to define that, and you missed the opportunity, and you let everyone else kind of figure out their own versions of it to a point where it was weaponized against us. And now, to be honest, technically I'm a Zionist, but like I would never say I am a Zionist. It feels like weird to say. I'm pro-Israel, but no fucking way. It's like being a libertarian.
Yeah. Also, there might just be, well, it is interesting. Millennials are at the higher end of the spectrum, but I also feel maybe nowadays the whole, I don't know what you want to call it, identity politics, but the idea of like putting a label on oneself contemporarily also feels like just not of the time, like dated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The issue, you know what the issue is between the Jews and the Palestinian side is that like the Palestinian side, when they go free Palestine or when they go globalize the Intifada or when they go from the rivers to the seas, it's all very succinct. The Jewish response to all this, someone goes like, globalize the intifada. The Jewish response is go, well, I don't know. Do I globalize? How does one globalize? What is intifada? All that stuff. That's the problem with the Jews, that they're very bad at marketing, which actually, this is the least unique stance of all time. See you later, Rich. The least unique stance of all time is that Jews are Jews are bad at marketing and PR. If anything, the past 2 years has taught us that Jews are terrible at marketing and PR by a mile. There was a moment in time where I think that there was an ability to go out there and try to defend the word Zionist, to try to define it with an actual definition, to go out there and say, this is what it means to be a Zionist. You have to look at the societal context around you and say, is this word working? Are we being effective when we're using this? Do people understand what this word means? And the answer is no, not with the term Zionist. My definition of the word Zionist is different than, I'm sure, tons of other people's definitions of the word Zionist. And I'm saying these are people that I agree with. Other Jews define Zionism differently than how I define Zionism. Because of that, we don't get to keep it anymore. It's a luxury to have that word. It's a luxury to be able to go out there and say, we are this thing. The battle got lost. We got to move on from it. We should be focusing on what the branding is for whatever phase 2 or whatever, after October 7th, obviously the concept of Zionism and the concept of Israel and the concept of Judaism magnified, changed, heightened. But now that we are past whatever chapter that was dealing with directly after the war, and then the anti-Semitism rise that happened corresponding to it, now we're in this part where we have to figure out what the branding is. We have to be smarter about it. The term Zionist should be a lesson. If you want to keep your terms and you want to make sure that everyone's talking and using the same terms that you use and everyone understands what you are saying, then look to Zionism and the term Zionism as a cautionary tale about what happens if you don't define something correctly and you let other entities define it. Because if you don't define it correctly, then other people are going to define it and you're not going to like their definition of it. Another thing is that if Zionism was such a uniform term, then in the Jewish community, you can't have that term include things that Jews do not feel comfortable with. Yes, 88% of Jews love Israel, 90% of Jews, whatever the number is, love Israel. But if you include support of the government, unconditional support of the government in that term, then you prevent people from saying that they are Zionist. That is all I'll say about this. But I do think that there needs to be a significant conversation about whether we use this term anymore and how we use the term anymore. Maybe the term is just used in a historical context. I don't think it's that bad to say the concept of Zionism, then move on and just use the word pro-Israel. Pro-Israel. I was in Reichman University a couple, maybe like a month or two ago at this point, and there was a class on messaging there. And a lot of people don't know this, but Israel, it polls in the mid 40s as a word in approval. The term Zionist, I think, was polling at 13%. 13%. Stop using it. No one wants to hear the term. Enough. Delete it. This is what happens when I don't have another person in the room to talk to, is that I just end up just rambling. All right. I want to cover some Olympic news that is happening. I want to talk about just some of the Israel stuff that's going on with sports. A couple things. First off, Mazel's Kiddush Shkoyach Minyan to AJ Edelman and the Shul Runnings squad. First time ever that the Israeli bobsled and luge contingent has made it over to the Olympics, currently competing in Melania Cortina out there. Fascinating story. AJ Edelman, the idea that Jews are doing bobsled is crazy to me. AJ Edelman kind of picked up the sport at some point and had, been told over and over and over again, there's no way that the Jews are going to compete in bobsled. That's crazy. Over time, he kind of started to qualify. What's funny is that I remember starting to see little grumblings of Israel bobsled. You'd see a bobsled with an Israeli flag on it, or you see a skeleton, you see a suit, one of those Lycra suits. This is why I can never do bobsled, by the way. I can't wear the spandex. That's why I cannot do bobsled. But it was cool seeing, the Israeli guys wear, spandex. Israelis can wear spandex. Every single Israeli man is made for spandex. It was cool seeing all the spandexes out there with the Israeli flags on it. Over time, they would, you'd hear, oh, they did well at this competition. Oh, they outperformed this competition. Oh, they're here, whatever. Them making the Olympics this year, insane. Big Kiddush Hashem, big Mazel's Kiddush Shkoyach Minion. Also a big shout out to, I think, Jared Friedman, I think is his name. But he is the skeleton racer for Team Israel. He, 35 years old. He went to Cardozo Law School, which I proudly avoided for years. A lot of people ask me how I got into comedy. It was avoiding law school for 10 years in a row. He went to my dad's alma mater. In fact, a lot of ways, he's probably looked upon as the son that my dad never had. But I'm not going to bring that personal stuff into here. Anyway, shout out my dad. I'm fine with my dad and my parents. This is a very funny aside. What if I just started crying right now? But Jared picked up skeleton because he had some sort of like stroke. He had some sort of medical condition. As part of his rehab, he found the sport and started doing it. So he's going to be competing. I think he's competing this weekend, actually. Super excited. Going to be turning on the TV at 3:30 in the morning on February 12th to watch him, to watch Israel's first bobsled, luge, downhill, ice racing group compete. A couple other Jews in the Olympics, just to note, two of the Hughes brothers are playing for Team USA hockey. Jeremy Swayman, who is the goalie for Boston, he is going to be backing up the Team USA goalie. On the women's side, one of the backups for Team Canada, backup goalies for Team Canada is Jewish, and Arin Frankel, the Green Monster, the Iron Dome, herself, PWHL from the New York Sirens. She is backstopping Team USA. Sorry, she's backstopping Team USA hockey. Aside from that, big Mazel's Kiddush Shkoyach out there to Arin Frankel. She's from Boston. I think she was I don't know what the PWHL version of the Vezina is, but the backup, but the goalie trophy for women's hockey. She was a finalist for 2 years in a row. She's also the first PWHL player to reach 1,000 saves during her career. Mazel's Kiddush Shkoyach out there. Also, a big shout out to Team Israel Baseball. The rosters have officially been announced. The World Baseball Classic is happening in the middle of March in Miami. Team Israel is unfortunately in like the bracket of death. I think they're playing Venezuela in the first match that they're doing. Some standouts on Team Israel. Dean Kremer, the pitcher, Israel, American citizenship. He's going to be playing for them, as well as Spencer Horowitz, Garrett Stubbs, Harrison Bader. I was fingers crossed hoping that Alec Bregman was going to step in there. Alec Bregman, who recently signed with the Cubs from the Boston Red Sox, but he is the best current Jewish baseball player out there. But he, unfortunately, is going to be playing for Team USA. I was fingers crossed hoping that he was going to end up playing for Team Israel. But real fun group of guys over at Team Israel. Really excited for those matches. Going to be happening, I think, March 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Next up, every week we do these Mamdani Watch segments on this show. The reason we do it, and the reason why I call the Mamdani Watch, is a direct ripoff of the ADL's Mamdani Watch. I think that Mamdani, like every mayor, should be watched. I don't know why, after Mamdani won the election, he came in there and the ADL announced that they were going to do a Mamdani Watch to keep track of him. And once again, I don't understand why they weren't just doing that for everybody, but if they want to do it, that's fine. You can't call it Mamdani Watch. That just feels, it's branded weird. It feels weird. It feels like we're a bunch of Jews and we are, just micro focusing on, on Zohar Mamdani. This week on the two big stories that are happening with him are, one, the snow. Everyone's annoyed with him about the snow. Snow is bad. I think that the Jewish community, I will say, had made a bunch of videos about the snow. It felt like everyone was losing other stuff to talk about him about. They were like, oh, there's nothing anti-Semitic happening. Let's, hit him with the snow. The snow wasn't his fault. We all understand the snow is not his fault, right? Like, it's been under freezing for 3 weeks in a row. The snow happened and then it froze in place. I think it looks real petty that the people that were making these anti-Mamdani videos about the snow just all happen to be Jews. I'd say 90% of the snow videos that were like, where's the mayor? Where's the mayor? Were coming from Jews. Fucking chill out. Just calm down. He's going to be here for 3 years. You're going to give yourself an aneurysm. You're going to run yourself into the dirt if you don't just pace yourself. This is a buffet. The whole Mamdani mayoral tenure is a buffet, and you got to pace yourself. You got to pick and choose your spots. You can't go in there and just load up on bread and then be like, oh, now I have no room for the pastrami. If you're getting angry at him over this snow stuff in a way that is not his fault, then unfortunately you've lost the battle in a lot of ways. Calm down. I think that a lot of people are not ready for how potentially moderate Mamdani is going to be and has been. I give him like a B+ thus far in dealing with the Jewish, nothing really has happened. He's gotten into office and then there immediately was a big snowstorm. Bondi happened and there was the protest that happened outside of the synagogue in Queens that he handled correctly. Sorry, he handled it correctly. He went out there. He said, you can't, be pro Hamas at a synagogue. And said the language is, and he put the cops out there. I thought it was handled completely correctly. Obviously, I still have, reservations and stuff like that. There's still questions that I have about him that I would love, to get answered. But, as a mayor, he has been totally B+ fine for the Jews. It was really annoying seeing that nothing bad was happening. And then the Jews were just like, all right, we're going to talk about the snow. The actual news that kind of came out this week was about Felicia Wisdom, who was put in charge of the anti-Semitism group or whatever the term would be. Actually, what do they call this thing technically? Felicia Wisdom. Let's see. Anti-Semitism office. There we go. Oh wait, no. Let's see. Executive director of Mayor's Office to Combat Anti-Semitism. That is the technical name for it. Now, she was brought on to lead this office, and immediately there was a lot of hate that was thrown at her. Now, I want to say that I will be doing a lot more research on this thing specifically, and we're going to be covering this in a little bit more of a setup manner to give it the importance that it deserves. But again, from the complaints that I've seen waged against her, from everything I've known, from everything I've read, the hatred for her was a little bit crazy. And I think that you have to criticize what is actually supposed to be criticized. And I don't know if she would have gotten that same level of criticism if, it wasn't Mamdani that was bringing it in. If Cuomo had brought her in, obviously Cuomo would have probably brought in a different person. But I just don't think that the amount of hate that was brought towards her was just because of talent and skill set and the job that she would be doing. I think that it was more just based on a general hatred towards, Mamdani. We have to work with this guy for the next 3 years. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of influencers and stuff, go out there and they hate the guy. I don't know if they go to synagogue every week. And I say that not because of and I don't go to synagogue every week, but I say that not because of this, oh, you're Jewish, you're not Jewish. How dare you speak on this thing? There are people that have to deal with actual consequences of Jewish life in New York. And those people are the ones that are starting to go out there and starting to make amends with Mamdani. They're the ones that are going out there and asking him, trying to have real, actual relationships with him. That is the way to go about this. It is to go out there, create a relationship, and then to criticize him when this stuff comes up organically. That's the way that it is. Once again, his tenure, it's a buffet. Don't fill up on bread. There's going to be meat out there. I guarantee you there's going to be stuff that's going to happen over the next 3 years. It would be shocking if the Jewish community doesn't have something that we get mad at over the next 3 years. And when that happens, we're going to need allies. We're going to need a ton of allies. And we're going to need to go to places and talk to people who we maybe have shunned in crazy ways before. Call them out when they need to be called out. But if you're just going to be attacking everything he's doing, then it's net negative. It's not effective, and it will not lead to any sense of security in the Jewish community in New York. Anyways, that is the New York Times, February 10th. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, here's where I'm going to be over the next couple of weeks. March 12th, I'm going to be doing Jewish or Anti-Semitic in Miami. Boom, we're going to Miami. I'm also going to be heading out to Penn State to do Jewish or Anti-Semitic. And of course, the big announcement, March 25th, we are bringing Jewish or Anti-Semitic live to the 92nd Street Y in New York City, baby. I will say I wrote them a bunch of tags, and this is nothing against the 92nd Street Y. I will not be saying this on stage, and none of this is accurate, but I did write a couple of tags for some marketing stuff that they respectfully said no to, and I get it. But I did think the funniest thing that I wrote that did not get it passed was the 92nd Street Y was voted oh my God. It was 92nd Street Y was voted Adolf Hitler's least favorite building in Mein Führer magazine. Come out for more of that stuff, Jewish or Anti-Semitic, on March 25th at the 92nd Street Y. Aside from that, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week on the New York Times. In honor of Rich, who's not here right now, Barstool